In this video, I'm going to show you how to use SketchUp for Web to model a very basic building. So the first thing you need to do is go to a web browser, type in SketchUp for Web. Usually it's going to be the first link that pops up that says SketchUp for Web. Go ahead and click on that. And then you want to click Start Modeling. If you do not yet have an account, it will take you to create an account. Otherwise, just sign into your existing account. I've already signed in, so I didn't have to go through that process. Go ahead and click Start Modeling. And here is your SketchUp for Web interface. So in SketchUp, there are a bunch of different ways to do pretty much everything. So over on the left-hand side, you have your toolbar. These are great if you are ever looking for a tool. This little search icon will guide you to the right tool if you start typing something in, like line, rectangle, different views. So there's a whole bunch of tools there. And once you have a tool selected, so right now I'm just in my select mode. Over on the right-hand side, you have this item called Instructor that shows you exactly what your tool is capable of doing. It shows a nice little visual showing how you could select different types of parts of the model in different ways. And if I change to my line tool, it shows you the different ways that you can move your line. So if you are new to SketchUp, I highly recommend you check out this Instructor tab when you are first trying out a tool. So real quickly, in order to move around, there's a couple different ways. You have something called Orbit, which is this guy right here, or if you click O on your keyboard, Orbit rotates around your model. And then right under that, you have your Pan, which is also known as H on your keyboard. That will move from left to right, up and down. And then, of course, you have Zoom, if you just use your scroll wheel. And if you don't have a mouse, you can type in Z, and you can zoom in and out by clicking and dragging up or dragging down. However, I do very, very highly recommend that you use a mouse. 3D modeling in general is a lot smoother when you have a mouse. And then to get back to the select mode, to exit out of a tool, all you gotta do is click the space bar to get back to select, or you can click the little select icon up here. And then the third, and what I find to be the easiest way to use the Orbit and Pan tool, is by clicking your middle mouse button and holding it and dragging it for Orbit, and then holding Shift and clicking your middle mouse button and dragging as you're holding Shift. So as you can see, just as I mentioned earlier, there are many different ways to use different tools and functions in SketchUp. As you have your toolbar over on the left-hand side, you have the hotkeys on your keyboard, and last but not least, you have your little search bar up here. And a couple things to note before we get into the floor plan, just about how your mouse works, how it functions when it comes to SketchUp tools. So if you grab something like the line tool or the rectangle tool, you always want to click once, let go, and then click again, or as you'll see later, you can type in a measurement and then click enter. You never want to click and drag your mouse without letting go, because then you will get some weird measurement that you don't actually want. So go ahead and click, let go, move your mouse around, and then click a second time to stop. The same thing applies for rectangles, so you can click once, let go, and then click again, or again, you can type in your dimensions, which we'll get into later in the video. Most of the tools are the same thing, so you'll have offset, which we'll get into later. Don't click and drag, click and click again. And then same with your push-pull tool. This one is especially important. Click once, let go, because usually you'll want to type in a dimension that you want that push-pull to go to. And then one more side note too about how SketchUp functions is there are two major components. There are lines and there are faces. So just using my line tool, we can make a bunch of lines. Now, when you are in a view like this, it's hard to tell exactly where those lines are ending up in the three-dimensional world, so you got to be careful with that. So one trick of the trade is that if you click in one area, you can actually click on the different arrows on your keyboard, and it will lock it into either the Z direction, blue axis, or the X direction, red axis, or the Y direction, green axis. So that's a very helpful tool if you want to make nice and straight lines. And then when you have lines that are all on the same plane, it will create you a face, which again, we'll get into a little bit later. With that face, you can do multiple different things. So if I try to make a four-sided shape and I'm not really paying attention to what axes those lines are falling on, when you look at a side profile, it'll show you that all four of these lines are not on the same plane. Now, in this case, I could take a line from this corner to this corner and it'll make me two faces. So now I have a face on one plane this way and I have a face on one plane this way. And then same thing over here. If I wanted to connect this corner with this corner, now I have a face here, and flipping around the other side, I have a face here. So take these things into account as you're preparing to model your building. All right, so now that we have some of the basics down, we're going to start making our floor plan. So the first thing we want to use is our line tool, which again, you can click over here, or what I prefer is type in L on your keyboard. And I like to start from the origin typically. So if you hover your mouse over where the three axes meet, if you click once and start dragging, you'll see that your mouse will start drawing. You can drag it up into the blue direction, which will go straight up, or you can go into the green direction, will go straight back, or you can go in the red direction, which will go straight right. So if you start dragging in the green direction, go ahead and type in 100 feet. So 100 apostrophe, click enter, and that will draw you a 100-foot line. And SketchUp will actually keep you in the line tool until you close the shape. Now go ahead and drag your pencil up and to the right until it kind of locks on that red axis. And go ahead and type in 120 apostrophe enter, give you a 120-foot line. Zoom out a little bit, reorient yourself so that you can see where that line went. So lock it on that green direction, type in 100 feet, enter once again. And then lastly, if you just orbit yourself so that you can see the origin, if you just click on that origin, it will enclose that shape. Now we also could have done this exact same thing with the rectangle tool. So again, SketchUp, you have many different ways to do the exact same thing. If I wanted to do the exact same thing with rectangle, I would click on the rectangle or R on my keyboard, click on the origin, move it back into the right, and then I would type in 120 feet, comma, 100 feet, enter. So now I have a 120 by 100 foot rectangle. And one thing I did not mention earlier is that whenever you start typing in something, it will show up in the bottom right hand corner. And one additional helpful feature is if you click spacebar or click select, and if you select a face, the entity info icon up here will actually show you your square footage. So anytime you can select a face or a line, it's kind of similar idea. It'll tell you the length of a line, or a face, it'll tell you the square footage of a face. And now comes the satisfying part. So if you click on the push pull tool, which is this icon right here, or what I prefer, P on your keyboard, you can grab this face and make it into a 3D object. So we're gonna push pull it in the upward direction, type in 12 feet, enter, to make it just a 12-foot floor. And now we want to start creating an outline for our floor plan. So I prefer to go into a top-down view. So if you go into the search bar over here, type in top view, go ahead and click on that. It'll give us a nice top-down view of that shape we just made. Now to help me draw out a floor plan, I like to use reference lines. For reference lines, I use the tape measure tool, which you can click over here, or what I prefer is T on your keyboard. The tape measure has two basic functions. The first one is, as its name says, is to measure distances. And the other, what I find to be a very helpful function, is it makes dotted lines that you can trace when you're making a floor plan. So let's go ahead and start with the bottom edge. If you just click anywhere on this parallel line, let go, drag your mouse into the green direction, go ahead and type in 20 feet, enter. Now you have a parallel line that is 20-foot offset from that bottom edge. Now let's do the same thing on the left-hand side. Go ahead and grab anywhere on that line, click once, drag right, type in 30 feet, enter, and then do the same thing on the right-hand side. Click, drag left, type in 30 feet, enter. Now this is a very simple floor plan, so it can get a little complicated if you have a lot of walls and line work that needs to be drawn. So this is not necessarily the best method every single time, but for simple floor plans, I much prefer to use this method. So now go ahead and grab your line tool, which is L, or you can use your rectangle. Go ahead and trace these lines. And now these dotted lines don't really matter anymore, so go ahead and grab the erase tool, which is this icon over here, or E on your keyboard. And you can either click on an object to erase it, or you can kind of click and drag over that object and it'll highlight and erase it. Now stay in this tool for just a second, because in this case, we want to get rid of this line and this line. Go ahead and erase those. So grab your line tool again. Now the nice thing about SketchUp is you have endpoints and you also have midpoints that you can snap to. So if you hover over the midpoint of that line, go ahead and click once, drag to the left to that other face to where it locks on it, and click again to finish the line. Now let's do the exact same thing by finding the new midpoint of the line we just split in half and do the same exact thing. So now we have a men's room and a ladies' room. Now let's do the exact same thing on the right-hand side for, again, stairs and elevators. Click once on the midpoint, drag to the right, click again, and then click once on the new midpoint, drag to the right, click again. So now we have a couple basic rooms, but we don't have any thickness. We need to make walls that have a certain thickness. So what we want to do is grab our offset tool, which doesn't appear to be in your toolbar, but F on your keyboard, or you can search it up if you want. F on your keyboard will do the trick. So if you hover over face, you will see it will start to highlight a face. If you click once within that face, drag towards the center, it will take the shape of that room and make it smaller. And if you drag outwards, it will make it bigger. So drag to the center, type in 6 and enter. You don't need to add inches because SketchUp is default 2 inches. So 6, enter. Now I can do the exact same thing on the rest of these floors. I can type in 6, enter, or a nice function that SketchUp has is it remembers the last measurement of the tool that you are using. So if I double click, it will recreate that 6-inch offset. Double click. As you can see, sometimes if you don't perfectly double click, SketchUp will think that you click once and then click again. So sometimes you got to click Control Z, retype it. See, it just did it again. Click once, 6, enter, and carefully double click, double click, double click. Go ahead and leave this one alone for now because we're going to extrude that away. So now using your orbit, or again, middle mouse button, click and drag, orient yourself so that you're kind of at an angle to your building. Grab your push-pull tool again, which is P, or again, this icon on the left. Go ahead and click once on one of those rooms, drag down until you can't anymore, click again, and it will actually disappear. Now, similar to offset, you can do the exact same thing, double click into each of these rooms, and it will perform the exact same function. Now, this is where I like to clean up my model a little bit. So I'll grab my erase, which is E, and just erase all those extra lines that don't really matter anymore. And then now if I angle myself in a top-down view, you can see a couple of our walls are single thickness, 6 inches, and a couple of them are 1 foot thick. So let's go ahead and use that push-pull tool to make each wall 6 inches. So the easiest way I think that you can do this is by coming to the center of your room, use push-pull, click on the face. It will limit it to 6 inches because of the line work that you have. Let's go ahead and click again. Again, you can double click into these other rooms. I'm just going to click on this face, this face, this face, this face. And again, using your erase tool, go ahead and clean up any of these excess lines. And you want to be careful what you click with your erase button, because if you erase an edge, it will take away the faces. If that ever happens, you can either click the undo button up here, or what I prefer is Control plus the Z button on your keyboard. So now if you zoom out, we have a pretty decent looking floor plan with a couple different rooms. This here is our main lobby. We have a big room here, a big room to the right. We have restrooms at the top left, and we have a stair and an elevator over on the right. So I will actually create a second video showing you the detailing of how to make doors, floors, windows, how to use the paint bucket tool so you can apply different textures. And then lastly, we'll dive into a little bit of how groups work so that we can copy our floors and make different levels.